Ron, your path into volleyball is probably as different and unusual as anybody out there. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
how do you get there from where you were 40 years ago?
Well, that's a true statement. I think it is a very unusual path. My family, we moved in a parish in Louisville, St. Raphael grade school, and actually I started out coaching a little basketball, and because I really not played volleyball other than rec volleyball. I didn't, play in school or anything like that. And so at the last minute, they needed a volleyball coach for their eighth grade girls team, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And so after a few years of that, I had a I had a few players I thought pretty good, and at that time, Bob and Wanda Blandford had started club volleyball in Louisville with KJVA was the name of their club, and I couldn't get these girls to go. And so finally I said, if I go with you, if I take you there to these tryouts or these sessions they were having. So that's the only way I could get them there. So I did. Happened to be they were short a coach or something, So I stepped out on the floor, and the next thing you know, I guess I got bit by the sport of volleyball and club volleyball, and here it is today. So.
Yeah, yeah. What were you actually doing? You were working in what was your living at that point in time?
Gosh, I was I was working. I was selling forms and software and that kind of thing to banks and savings and loans and credit unions and I kind of liked what I was doing, but I did all of a sudden the passion bug hit me, and I mean this was overwhelming. So I couldn't say no. And,
But it was quite a few years before you could actually make a living doing it, right?
oh yeah. I mean it was in 1993. I was coaching at Assumption, and still with KJVA with Bob and Wanda, and ran into a parent of a player from Assumption. He was a local contractor, and I was just happened to be telling him about a volleyball facility in Chicago that we played in. And he had a few brothers that were interested in the game. So a few days later, I get this call saying, my brothers and I like to talk to you about this volleyball facility concept. And he said, "Can you interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm interested. I'll be there in about 15 minutes." And so that conversation started. And next thing you know, a few days later, we're flying up to Chicago to take a look. And then 3 months later, we got a building up. And that's when it became my profession, so to speak. We were one of the earliest
Yeah, I mean,
volleyball facilities, and it was 1993. So, I mean, for someone to go to a bank and say, I want to start a volleyball facility, they were going to probably usher you out the door. And, because there just weren't any, maybe a few across the country. And so without his help, being a local contractor with serious bank ties, this place would have never happened. I had the idea of what I wanted to do, but I certainly didn't have the funding to get something like this started. So, but it was a blessing. I'm so lucky that I guess my hobby turned into my profession, and basically because of fellow this father and his family, and so right place, right time, Kathy.
yeah, and now it looks brilliant, to be one of the first people to have your own building and actually be able to support a club and be able to do it, 24/7. But there had to be some scary times early there when it was like, is this going to work? Can we make this cash flow?
For sure. I think one of the blessings we had at that time was at 93, it was right after the Karch Karai, Olympics, when they'd won everything, the gold medal. Adult volleyball was just popping. It was so popular. Well, when we opened, and this was in August in the summer, we had 6 nights of volleyball, 4 courts when we opened, and they were all full of adults playing volleyball in the evening. And it was just such so popular at that time. And so we were, again, I was asked what advertising, it was nothing. It was word of mouth and a few flyers. And it was kind of like that, you build it, they will come. And they did. And, but then obviously during that time, I think, the growth of youth volleyball or junior volleyball was exploding. And obviously, again, good timing, good fortune. So back to the right place in the right time type thing, I think.
So early on, the cash flow for the building was coming from adults, not junior girls.
Well, a little of both, but yeah, actually, this was pre-Kiva for us. So, Bob and Wanda, they were renting courts for KJVA. We were doing junior volleyball in here, but basically that was it. And yes, adult volleyball was helping helping out a lot. And of course, I started this with myself and one other full-time employee. So we were both trying to work from 6 a.m. to midnight, and but you do what you have to do to make things work, at that time. So
yeah, starting your own business. Everybody thinks they want to do it until they get a chance to do it, and then they go, "This is killing me."
Yeah, particularly when you'd work 5 days a week or something like that. Now you're 24/7 basically. Nothing's going to happen unless you do it, and you have to be ready for the weekends. So yeah.
So all right, you came, picking up a 7th grade parish program, and then coaching at Assumption. And so where did you learn volleyball? I mean, who were the people that influenced how you train, what you teach? Now you're one of the most respected trainers in the country. Who influenced this? Where did it come from?
Well, I think it starts out when we started with KJVA. Primarily the only places really to play serious volleyball was in Chicago. This is really when Indianapolis was just getting started. So we would drive past Indianapolis on weekends, and we would go on these 0 for weekends, I call them. We were 0 for however many matches we played. We just got our butts kicked. And so kids would ask the question, how come we can't play like this? And I said, well, you have to be make the same commitments and of time and everything else. And certainly you can. It's going to happen overnight. So, I think I've always said you can learn a lot from losing if you're paying attention. And I certainly had my share of that. And excuse me. As I started, another fellow I think was influential in that early on, Don Harden, former coach at Illinois, was coaching in Louisville at that time. And Don came into one of my practices one day, and he said, "You mind if I watch and take some notes?" And I said, "Sure, I'm honored." And so he sat over in the corner with a pad of paper, legs folded, and an hour and a half later, I was handed about 3 pages of notes. Like 1 page maybe of stuff I was probably doing pretty well. Others of things that I could certainly improve on. So, I think at that point it registered with me that, you should always be looking for better ways, different ways, maybe better ways to do things. If that doesn't work, obviously you stick with what you have. But I think you always have to be in search of that. So I think, going forward, I was influenced by other coaches I'd watch. My daughter, Ann, started her college career with Mike Lingenfelter at Cincinnati. I've always respected Mike as one of the better gym coaches that I've run into as far as training, teaching, running practices and such. So, I probably sit here and think about it and go through a list, but I think the main thing for me is that I've always been in search of something. Still today, some of our staff will go to clinics and things like that. Again, just in search of ways we can get better to help the kids that we train get better. So
yeah. Ron, you've always been a bridge builder. In terms of there's a lot of politics in junior volleyball, always has been, and we're not unique there. That's indicative of youth sports. But you've served as the commissioner of the Pioneer Region for many years. You've coached a high school team and kept the dialogue open between high school and club. You were one of the founding members of the Junior Volleyball Association. What's the philosophy that you carry to say, hey, we can compete like crazy, but we all got to stay focused here on, on what we're trying to do?
well, I think all those moves have been, the one goal in mind was creating opportunities, as many as possible, for these young girls to play. I was involved with a small group in creating the Pioneer Region. We were once a part of Ohio Valley, and Ohio Valley was so large, we just felt we were at the bottom of it. And for us to grow the game in the state of Kentucky, which was very few people playing at that time, and that we needed to kind of be our own entity, and so we were fortunate again to USA Volleyball allowed us to form a region. And when I started coaching Assumption, I think there was maybe 70 high schools in the state of Kentucky playing. Now they're all playing, I think it's in 200s or something. But I think all the moves that I've done, I think have just been been involved in, is just the driving force has been to just, again, to create more opportunities. Let's grow the game. Let's make volleyball easier to play. How many people can we get to get them on a court and get them playing? So that's been my motivation for all of that throughout these years. So
How has the game changed during the time that you've been involved?
Well, obviously the game has changed on its own tremendously, from regular score to rally score and all the other, the continuous rule changes that we deal with. But I think, as I look back, I think that society has molded a little bit of the game because of the kids that we're dealing with. When I started, talking about these weekends to Chicago, I mean, we would maybe have one parent go or two. I mean, again, as I said, we loaded up vans and went. And today it's rare that you go anywhere that at least one of the parents aren't with them, or they've attached their kid to another family, which is all good. There's nothing wrong with that. I think from a training standpoint, I think so many of us probably start out coaching sort of the way we were coached, and sometimes that's not good. But I think going back to the statement I made earlier about wanting and looking for better ways to do things, I think the way I approach it today is so much different than I did 20 years ago. And it's because I think, the athletes we're dealing with today, society has changed a bit in terms of a little bit more entitlement and things like this. I mean, we all kid and talk about everybody gets a trophy thing. And, so I think I have personally made adjustments. I know some of the former athletes I had when they come back, and now their daughters are coming back, which is great. But they said, wow, you really mellowed out. And I said, well, I don't know, probably age is factoring into that a little bit. But I think you have to, again, you change with the times. I don't think you toss out your values and your goals, but sometimes you got to figure out a different way to get there. And so I think that's probably been challenge, and I think a lot of coaches would agree that, you know, they have to approach what they're doing maybe a little bit differently, or go around another corner to get where they want to get than they had 2 years ago. You know?
Yeah.
So
When you look ahead, and I don't know how much we're looking ahead in a pandemic. Ahead for us usually is, you know, next month.
yeah, in a week.
Yeah, but if you look farther ahead and stuff, I mean, is this still, you know, is this still something you love?
You know, Kathy, um, certainly I have a passion for it, and yes, I mean I'm at an age. The majority of my friends are retired, and they keep asking me, how much longer are you going to do this? And I said, well, you know, I still wake up. I still enjoy what I'm doing. You know, why would I not do it? And because and you mentioned the pandemic. I mean, last March, April, May, when we were all sitting in our houses. I've got a small condo. I always thought was just perfect because I'm never at home. You know, I'm either at the volleyball or we're traveling or we're doing something. But those walls started shrinking in on me, and I know I can't do that. So when this stops, I don't know. I guess they probably have to carry me out. I don't know, but I have no intention of stopping. I love what I do. I love the people that I do it with, and so. Thought of stopping doing it really, it maybe flies by, but I never give it much consideration. So
Sure. Anything I should have asked you that I didn't, or that you want to close with?
no, I don't think so. I think again, it's certainly an honor to be included in this group of people in the ABCA Hall of Fame. I mean, it's something that I would have never imagined, you know, starting out again as a seventh, eighth grade volleyball coach, that I would be included in a group like this. So, but I think it's just, again, just going back to how fortunate I've been that I wish I could grant everyone a passion for something like I've had a passion for volleyball. It's just it's a great way to live, and you know, and I know there's a lot of young people. We have some working for us now that have that kind of passion. It's so much fun to watch them develop and just know what a great life they have ahead of them. So
That's great. Yeah, it's great. Well, thank you very much, Ron.